start of the week, because I really want to get into posting like twice a week, but I just couldn't do it because I will get into it in a minute, but I ended up in A&E on Tuesday, and I was in A&E for 24 hours. If you don't know what A&E is actually, because I think it's just a UK thing, it's basically like the emergency department in the hospital. But I think a lot of you will know what A&E is. It just depends on where you're from, I guess. I don't know what it's called in other countries. I think in the US it's the emergency room, but I don't know about anywhere else. But yeah, so I just thought I'd do a little whisper ramble, a life update sort of thing, just to talk about what's been going on, because it's all been a bit crazy. So yeah, basically, I think I mentioned in my most recent video on here, but I've been suffering quite badly with like tachycardia, which is essentially like a really high heart rate, abnormally high heart rate, and that's when your heart goes, what they class it as when your heart goes over 100 beats per minute for no real reason, as when you're at rest. So if you're not like working out, exercising, you're not stressed or anxious, but you're just sort of like sitting, relaxing, and your heart is going over 100 beats per minute. So the past few weeks I've been dealing with that a lot. I mean, the past like 5-ish months I've been dealing with it, but more intermittently, also along with a lot of other symptoms, like especially when I lie down and try and sleep, I've been getting a lot of like dizziness, like blood pooling in my feet and then hands, like lightheadedness. It's all been very weird, and then like heart palpitations as well, so like my heart will like feel like it's skipping a beat. Very weird, I know. I've not been used to this before this point, so it was very odd, but the past few weeks especially, it's been really bad with my tachycardia. So I went to the doctors for an ECG on Tuesday afternoon. I think my appointment was at like 5 PM, thinking, oh, I'll just go in for an ECG, and ironically, during the daytime, my heart rate was behaving quite well, or what I thought was quite well. Like, I was only going over 100 beats per minute when I actually was standing up and walking around the house and doing stuff, which for me, at that time at least, I classed that as doing pretty good. But when I went to my ECG, in my ECG, my heart rate absolutely skyrocketed. So I was sat doing my ECG and it was going at 135. If you don't know what an ECG is, by the way, it's called an electrocardiogram, and it basically, you have these like little tabs put on your like chest and your legs, and your arms and was essentially worried that I might have like a blood clot, which can obviously elevate your heart rate and can be fatal. So yeah, he sent me straight to A&E. Like I say, lucky my boyfriend was with me because we both just went straight to A&E. I would have been quite scared to do that on my own. And got checked in at A&E. The wait times were crazy. I feel like I've never been to A&E before, so I was like, I don't know what to expect. But my boyfriend has a couple of times, and he said the wait times were going to be crazy. But I was in there for almost 24 hours. So essentially at A&E, I had more ECGs done. I think I had about 6 ECGs done that, like, over the course of the 24 hours, because every time they did an ECG, my heart rate was like at least 120. It was I think it was like 128 or something the first time, then it went down to 125, then 120, it went back up again, and I think the last ECG I had was the lowest, and that was like 104. And they also like monitored my heart rate and my blood pressure as well. My blood pressure was okay, so that's why as well they're a little bit confused, because usually if you have a high heart rate, you have high blood pressure. I think that can be indicative of a stroke. Not a stroke, might be indicative of a stroke actually, but that can be indicative of a blood clot, because your heart's obviously having to work harder to pump blood around your body because you've got a clot. But my blood pressure was fine, but my heart rate was so high, so they were really confused. I also had loads of blood tests done, just to see what's going on. Most of them came back normal, but the only one that didn't come back normal was my thyroid function. Now, I've had my thyroid checked in December last year, kind of when these symptoms started a bit more intermittently. I had blood tests done to check my thyroid and loads of other stuff, and my thyroid was absolutely fine. So I didn't think it would be my thyroid, to be honest, but they checked it again anyway, and my thyroid was high, so I think the levels should be up to 6. I can't remember what healthy levels are like, between 4 and 6. I don't know the units, I'm not aware, but they said healthy levels should be between 4 and 6, and I was at like 7.2, which is high, but it's not like too high. It's like mildly high, but it is abnormal, so they sort of determined that it could be to do with my thyroid. Now, like I say, there was a lot of waiting around, a lot of things in between this. My first sort of observations, blood test, ECGs were done between me waiting in the main area, waiting room, and then when they called me, I'd go off into a little room. But when after she told me about my thyroid results, it was really weird actually, because my other blood tests were coming back normal, and I was waiting for the results, and they were coming in like one at a time for my blood tests, and she was like, oh, these ones are going back in normal, we're just waiting for your thyroid, but I think you should be good to go if that comes back all okay. So I was literally getting ready to go, and by that point I'd been in A&E for about 9 hours, and I was like, oh, I'm ready to go, I need to go home, I want a McDonald's breakfast, and I just want to go home. Or actually, it was kind of funny because my boyfriend and I at 3 in the morning were like, oh, if we can get going soon, we can pick up a McDonald's on the way back. And at least in the UK, the McDonald's breakfast starts at 5 a.m, but before that you can just get the normal meals from McDonald's. So we were like, oh, we'll be fine, we've got plenty of time. Then she came back and said yeah, I'm not gonna lie, your thyroid's too high, so I'm going to have to keep you in, but I'm gonna have to move you into this separate smaller room with other people who need further testing because it's more serious, if that makes sense. So I was moved from the main A&E waiting room to a different waiting room, much smaller, much hotter, with way less people, but it was quite uncomfortable. But anyway, it was quite funny because I said to my boyfriend, I was like, well, we're not going to make McDonald's breakfast now. Sorry, normal McDonald's, so we might as well get McDonald's breakfast. But anyway, it's kind of sidetrack. But yeah, so I basically was in this waiting room after she said that, and I didn't get any sleep because I can't sleep sat upright, and I was in this really uncomfortable fucking chair for the whole time, and it was just crazy. Anyway, so eventually after I think I was in there for like 6 hours from about, actually it might have been 7 hours, because I think I got in that waiting room at 5 a.m. ish, and then at like midday, they said they were going to basically bring a thyroid specialist to talk to me, and do some observations just to see what he thought. Anyway, he did some observations. He checked my throat, because your thyroid, if you don't know, your thyroid is like in your throat, and usually when people have, because they thought I basically had hypothyroidism, which if you don't know is when your thyroid gland produces too much of the thyroid hormone. You can also have hypothyroidism, which is the opposite problem where it doesn't produce enough, but they thought I had hypothyroidism because obviously my levels were higher, where it produces too much of the thyroid hormone, which can cause these like irregular heartbeat, really fast heart rate, palpitations, just discomfort, amongst other things. And the other things they were looking for was like swollen throat, some people get bulging eyes, and what else is there? There's a few other things, I think. Oh, suddenly losing weight. So she asked me, have you suddenly lost any weight? I said, no, I'm consistently this size all the time. And I didn't have a swollen throat, I didn't have bulging eyes. So he was a bit like, I don't really know if it's hypothyroidism because you don't have the other symptoms, but obviously the test is indicating, and you're having this really high heart rate, and it's not going down really. So he was like, he then spoke with another like more advanced specialist, I think, like on the phone, and basically this specialist thinks that I might have something called thyroiditis, which is essentially, it's kind of like a bit like, it acts a bit like hypothyroidism in the sense that you're producing too much of the thyroid hormone, but it's on a more temporary basis, because it's like an inflammation of the thyroid, usually caused by like an infection or a virus, or it can be caused by Hashimoto's disease, which I don't have, but it can be caused by Hashimoto's and various other things, Graves' disease I think as well. But he thought that I maybe have had a virus a few months ago which has caused this thyroid inflammation, which has caused my thyroid to produce too much hormone, and then I'm having these symptoms, because even though this is something that goes away eventually, but it can take weeks or months for symptoms to persist until it goes away. I mean, I'd love it to go away. I hope it isn't hypothyroidism, because that's usually on a more, I believe, it's a more chronic condition, I think, and it's like recurrent because your thyroid naturally produces too much, whereas this is like a short-term thing because of like an infection or something. So that's what he thinks it is, which is why I've had these symptoms sort of on and off the past few months, and now they're getting really bad, because there's usually periods of time where you like are in certain stages of this thyroiditis, if that makes sense, and your symptoms can worsen. And he thinks that these past few weeks I've been in that stage, and it's just kind of reached its peak, especially yesterday, or the day before at least, in like A&E and stuff, and when I went for my ECG. So it's good that they caught it really, because if my heart rate wasn't acting up, they might have not been able to catch it. So that's what he thinks happened. So he basically said, we won't keep you in the hospital any longer because you seem okay. Like my heart rate was coming down by then, and they knew that they basically prescribed me with beta blockers, propanadol I think I'm taking, which essentially slows the heart rate, and it's really helped so far. Oh my god, it's so nice to have a heart rate that sits under 100 continuously. So I don't know, it's very weird, like going from spending weeks where my heart has been pounding, and like when I'm sat down it's like 120 at least all the time, or like 110, 120, going from that to having a heart rate where like right now my heart rate is sitting at 90. It's crazy. And like when I go to sleep my heart rate's like 65 or 70, and it's to the point where I'm like double checking my heart rate, because I'm like, am I still alive, because I've been so used to it pounding and like really feeling my heartbeat and getting like sweats and like all of this stuff, that it's actually so weird that my heart rate isn't pounding now. So yeah, basically he prescribed me with these beta blockers, and in 6 weeks more susceptible to having more or multiple, but I would prefer not to, obviously, because it's just another thing to deal with. And especially with this, I've noticed over the past few weeks, and like when I was at A&E yesterday, especially, and the day before, obviously having a really fast heart rate, I don't want to stand up, because even when I'm sat down it was going like 120, like I say, so standing up it was shooting up to like 140, 150 sometimes, so I didn't want to stand up. However, my endometriosis causes me, I get like chronic nerve pain, so sitting in one position or sitting on a seat for almost 24 hours, because you can't really do anything else but sit, it was like obviously flaring up my endo, and yeah, it was just a whole thing. I was having really bad bladder pain and bladder issues, like as in like pain when I was going to the toilet in A&E and stuff, and it was just a whole thing, so my endo started flaring up. But obviously, I think the guy at the hospital told me this, endometriosis flare-ups can sometimes cause this increase in heart rate, because if you're flaring up and you're in pain, your body kind of like, you know, it's working harder, right? Because it's in shock, you're anxious, you're stressed about being in pain. Because I asked this because I'm taking amitriptyline, which is a nerve pain medication for my endo, and my doctor before I went to A&E kind of recommended that I come off it because it can interact with your heart. But the thyroid specialist I spoke to basically told me I don't need to come off that pain medication, and he'd actually recommend I don't, because if I do come off amitriptyline, I'm more likely to get worse flares because I have chronic nerve pain. So the more flares I get, the more my heart rate has a chance of spiking, especially because it's quite susceptible to spiking at the moment anyway. So it's a whole thing. So I'm not coming off my pain medication, which is great. And also he said because it's a thyroid thing, it's not directly related to my heart, it's not a heart condition, even though it affects the heart. I don't need to come off this medication, and there's no direct link between my beta blockers and my pain medication, so it's fine, which is good. But yeah, like I say, my endo started flaring up because obviously I'm sat down for long periods of time, but I did have to get up at a few points to like relieve it. Obviously my heart rate spiked, but I just kept walking outside and just getting some fresh air, and the room I was in was so hot. My heart rate when I sat down, the highest my heart rate got to when I was sat down was 155 in that room, and I literally felt like shit. It was horrible. I was sweating. I just closed my eyes and I was like, I just want this to pass, but like nothing I was doing. I tried relaxing so much, but my heart was literally pounding. Like I could see my heart like moving my t-shirt. Like that's how much it was pounding. It was horrendous. I had a little cry because if anybody knows, like having health issues where you just don't know what's going on is just so frustrating, and especially like because it's my heart, I don't know what's going on, and it was really scary because I kind of felt like, not to be dramatic, but I guess when your heart's going that fast it feels dramatic. Like I did feel like I was gonna die a couple of times when it was going really fast. I was like so confused and I just didn't know what's going on, so I got quite upset, but yeah, obviously I've come to terms with my endometriosis. I can deal with that a lot better, but this is a new thing, so it's just another thing to get used to. But anyway, I got sent away from A&E about I think I left A&E about 3:30 in the afternoon. I think it might have been was a bit later, something like that. So I spent almost 24 hours there pretty much. And yeah, I've been on these beta blockers now since yesterday afternoon, and today has been so much better, like with my heart rate, and when I stand up it's very weird. I'm basically only just passing 100